So we're going to hear an awful lot in the next 40 minutes about what big data does and why it's important to cable. We're going to start with Niels Rosenquist, who is the co-founder and CEO of IHS JANYS Systems, JANYS Analytics, let me get that right, IHS JANYS Analytics, which, Niels, you're going to give us a roundup of what big data does and what you know about how big data works.
Absolutely, Gary. Thanks for the opportunity. So, as Gary mentioned, I am the CEO of JANYS Analytics, a startup founded by a number of academics up in Boston a couple of years ago. We started hearing all this stuff about social media analytics, and when we saw stuff that we actually had invented, we said, well, maybe we should try our hand at it as well, and we're very excited about our partnership with IHS Global for distributing some of our product. So let me give you an example to start out. What you see behind you, is actually a map of the United States and looking at the mood of the nation through Twitter.
And this is what people can see on the screens on the side right there.
Absolutely. So you can see more people tweeting in various parts of the country. It's in a cartogram. Green is happier. This is what I show my wife when I say we need to move to California. Red is where I live in Boston, and people are never happy there, especially with the Red Sox last year. But the basic idea is that you can take these large streams of data, and as a psychiatrist by training, I was fascinated by what you can do with this data and actually look at the mood of nation or nations.
And it changes frequently, as that dynamic screen showed.
Oh, it does, yeah, over time, which is what we've created now, and this is coming to a launch, is the Social Media Sentiment Index through IHS, and this is live for people who want to take a look at it. This is actually the mood of the nation. It looks like an EKG here, but it actually reflects patterns across a country or the world. And you can actually look at subgroups. So it turns out that for whatever reason, the sentiment of the female population is a little bit less happy on average than men. I'm not sure why that is, but it's an interesting finding that we have, and you can sort of play around with it here to look over periods of time, location, etc. And so we think that this is very exciting for a number of different areas, including cable TV. We can look at events like the Boston bombing, the unfortunate event there, and look at how sentiment patterns changed. And these patterns actually reflect things like Hollywood films. We're going to be releasing a product soon with formerly IHS Screen Digest, showing box office receipts, etc. All of these things sort of relate to the idea of sentiment, which is a popular topic, but we wanted to take it one step further to something that is a real strength of ours, which is the idea of networks. And I know that somebody had said to me beforehand, when it's a cable network show, make sure you make a very explicit description of what networks are, so I'll do that. Networks, to us, relate to the social space. And so what people might see here looks like a mess. It looks like a Jackson Pollock picture gone awry.
Not quite as colorful.
Or something, it's colorful. But actually, for those of you who are in the cable industry, this is your audience. This is actually a network of cable TV viewers who are overlapping, who have interest in one of 4 television shows. If you take it to the 10 o'clock, that's actually for the release of Game of Thrones on HBO. It's a cluster of individuals who are very interested in that. Up in the upper right-hand corner are people who actually watched the premiere of Netflix and started a strong community, number of messages amongst them. In the lower right-hand corner is the release of Mad Men, and then finally, to the lower left-hand corner is NCIS. And these are all over the course of the premiere days. As it turns out, there are not a lot of people who tweet about NCIS for whatever reason. But when you look at these things, you could say, well, this is a jumbled mess, but what does it really tell you? Well, for us, we believe that if you really want useful social media analytics, or what we call next generation analytics, you need to go beyond who likes who on Facebook. The number of likes you have, the number of followers you have, or retweets you have, don't necessarily present actionable data to someone. You have to provide context and meaning to that. And so, for example, if you look here, and I just wanted to make a point here, that all of these dots are individuals. We can look at these individuals, we know a fair bit about them, we know by the nature of their friendships with others what they're likely to like. A lot of things that you can do just with a Twitter feed in and of itself. And in this case, what we can see just in this information here, the point in fact, even though there are fewer people messaging about Mad Men, they are a very strong, solid community with a higher percentage of men than we would have expected necessarily compared to NCIS, or Arrested Development. We can learn that by inferring through, again, information from what we call the garden hose Twitter feed, a tremendous amount. Within these groups, you are also able to find, although we don't show it here, who's actually influential. And it's not necessarily based upon the number of followers you have. In fact, if there's one thing I would say to you to take out of this whole presentation, it's that Justin Bieber is actually a black hole for social media. And the reason why I say he's a black hole is because he has 6 million followers, but none of those followers follow each other. And if you want a message to go out, for those of you who are in corporate communications, who are in marketing, one of the biggest things that I've noticed not sort of spread about how to increase marketing footprint is to follow people as much as having people follow you. The science of it is very basic within the networks community, but the idea is the more that you follow people, the more reciprocal connections that are created.
That's the history of the word of mouth. I mean, that's what human beings do socially.
Absolutely. But what I've seen personally is this idea that, people say, well, you just need a whole bunch of followers. But you need to follow an exceedingly large number, and with the help of some of these technologies, you can target followers in a way that will actually spread a message, regardless of what the message is.
Do you have the technologies, or what IHS JANYS Analytics does is offer the tools to help people put this together?
Right. I mean, why we partnered with IHS Global was because when we, I know very little about the cable TV industry. I like watching cable TV shows. I love it, love Game of Thrones. But we recognized early on that in order for any of this to work, you have to partner some of this new science from the startup tech industry with people who know what they're doing in the industry media space. And so what we do for these products is we do targeted products or reports or technologies for specific issues for a company. So for cable TV is different than people who watch things on streaming or something else. And for us, what we seek to do, or what we do with a number of clients, is to say, okay, what you really want to know is, who is your audience? Who are your communities of followers? What do we know about them? And within those communities, what are the messages that seem to be traveling around? That's not that easy to do, and if you try a one-size-fits-all approach, it's not very helpful. You can't have a black box because we need the input from clients and from experts at people like IHS.
You show the various demographics. How deeply can you go into that, or how important are those demographics?
Sure, well, it really depends on the specific question you're asking for. We have geolocation for a number of messages that we can look at. People have self-reported locations, so we can do that. For us, when it comes to gender, we take a variety of pieces of information such as names and go there. And what's neat about network technology, and there's a lot of research to back this up, you can actually predict on Facebook the sexuality of someone 2 to 3 degrees of separation away from someone without knowing anything about them, but purely on the basis of whether their network is what we would call transitive or less transitive, meaning are friends with each other. So you don't have to know a single piece of information necessarily except the network architecture, or snowflake, if you will, between people itself.
Well, it sounds very important for advertisers, for example, to know that a number of people have mutual interests or mutual contacts, and that's what you're able to show them through the system.
I think this is the future. I think this is why Facebook came out with Facebook Graph Search. I think why graph technology is something that's really going to be important moving forward, and why I think this is an example of something that will provide an extra boost of useful information to people who want to invest in social or social analytics.
Do you want to say anything about the personal privacy or security aspects of this? Because that's certainly one of the things that always comes up when a presentation like this is on screen.
It's certainly been in the news a lot recently.
Well, yeah, around Washington, definitely.
As an issue, I think one just general observation is that, we do live in an age where there are companies that know more about us than anyone, including in some cases the government. I think Twitter is a unique platform, and everything I've shown today is Twitter because people want their voices heard, so it's a very public platform. Certainly we have worked with firms before that have internal data that they would like looked at anonymously. We believe that we can infer a tremendous amount of information using, without identifiers, just general patterns of things, so that it's helpful to know sort of who the 30,000 people are who are following a various property on cable. but more importantly, it's like, what are the general features of them broadly? And I think that that's one way, including just very, following standard privacy protections as a way to move forward.
Well, thank you for coming to the Cable Show. If you said it's your first, then this is a new industry for you. Certainly what you're doing is providing the future, showing us a path to the future of what programming, advertising, and distribution is going to look like. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take care.